All right, I'd like to read a few journalistic accounts of Sohn's life, and two of them are from the New York Times. One is from the Christian Science Monitor, and one from the San Diego Union Tribune. This first one is from Clyde Haberman on the 50th anniversary of Sohn's achievement. It's called Truly a Sports Hero. It has been 50 years since a Korean marathoner named Sohn Kee-chung captured the gold medal at the Berlin Olympics. Even now, Sohn says, he can feel the jubilation and agony of that moment. His agony was that he had to climb onto the victory stand with the flag of Japan emblazoned on his jersey. His country was then under Japanese colonial rule. The anthem played in the Berlin Stadium was Japan's. The name that went into the record books was the Japanese version that had been forced on him, Kitei Son. There have been a flurry of retrospectives concerning the 74-year-old recently. This was on October 13, 1986, 2 years before the Korean Olympics. And this flurry of recent activity was fed by the Asian Games in Seoul, South Korea, and the capital's frenzied preparations for the 1988 Summer Olympics. Last month, the West German government gave him an ancient Greek helmet commemorating his gold medal. On August 9th, the anniversary of his race, officials in Culver City, California, rededicated a monument bearing a roster of Olympic marathon winners. At the urging of the Korean community in Los Angeles, the name Kitei Son, Japan, was replaced on the roster with Sohn Kee-chung, Korea. I was even happier at that ceremony than at the Olympics because my Korean nationality and my name were restored, said Sohn. To Koreans ruled by Japan from 1910 to 1945, it was humiliation that still haunts. They were considered by Tokyo to be Japanese. Their language was banned for official matters, and they had to take Japanese names. Against that backdrop, Sohn had inadvertently become a national hero and remains so today because of his foot race. Unknown to him then, several reporters for a prominent Korean newspaper, Donghae Ilbo, airbrushed the Japanese flag from his jersey on the front page picture. The Japanese authorities, angered by this burst of national fervor, jailed the reporters for 6 months and shut the newspaper for nearly a year. The incident has become almost legend in South Korea, and as Sohn sees it, he played a role in the journalists' defiant act, even from afar. He had held strong, emotional, anti-colonial beliefs and shown them through such small actions as refusing in training sessions to wear shirts bearing the Japanese flag or other insignia. According to Sohn, the newspaper followed my lead. In later years, Sohn became a businessman, but with no great success. His real occupation all along has been to play the hero's role. He is now a member of the Korean Olympic Committee, and he lives in a simple Seoul apartment a few miles from the large sports complex where in 2 years South Korea will be hosting the Summer Olympic Games. He pulls out old clippings and photo albums for visitors, reminding them, and maybe himself too, that Korean children still learn about Sohn Kee-chung in their history classes. Everybody knows about what happened, he said proudly. Those who don't know are not Korean. I might add that during the race, during the 1936 Olympics, one of the American runners was among the leaders for the first 18 miles. His name was Ellison Brown. They called him Tarzan Brown. He was a Narragansett American Indian, and he had won the Boston Marathon in 1936 and was going to win it again in 1939. He had a drop out at the 18th mile with a leg cramp, and one of the spectators, who was totally unknown to him, helped him massage the cramp, and he intended to go on running after that. However, an Olympic official saw he received assistance during the race, and he was immediately disqualified. So, actually, the story of Tarzan Brown will make another good read aloud, maybe at another time. So, he was an interesting character. Next selection is from the Christian Science Monitor of September 15th, 1988, and it's entitled "The Sweet and the Bitter: A Korean Story of Olympic Gold," by Daniel Snyder, a staff writer for the Christian Science Monitor. And he reports that Sohn Kee-chung was the first Korean ever to win an Olympic gold medal, but his marathon victory in the 1936 Olympics Games brought triumph and sadness. The medal was won for Japan, then the colonial ruler of Korea. Today he is fighting to credit the medal to his nation and holds a place of honor as the Olympics open in Seoul. The greatest moment in Sohn Kee-chung's life is also the saddest. At his time of triumph, Mr. Sohn was a completely unknown Korean marathon runner who had never competed outside his native land. Actually, he had competed in Tokyo, so that's not true. He astonished experts at the 1936 Berlin Olympics, winning the race in record time to become Korea's first Olympic gold medalist. But in the Olympic record books, the name of the winner of the Berlin Games is not his, and the victor's country is not listed as Korea. Sohn ran as a citizen of the Empire of Japan, the colonial ruler of Korea, and his victory is recorded as that of Kitei Son, the Japanese name imposed by his rulers. From the day of his triumph, Sohn was a Korean national hero. He will occupy a place of honor at the Olympic Stadium when the 24th Olympiad opens in Seoul on Saturday. The Olympic organizers have kept the identity of the final bearer of the Olympic torch a secret, but Sohn may well have that singular honor. Sitting in his modest Seoul apartment on a recent summer morning, the 76-year-old Sohn recalled the race. I was confident I could win, but when the race started, I saw all those good runners passing me by. After I passed the 10-kilometer point, about 6.2 miles, I saw athletes dropping out of the race. So I started thinking, perhaps I can manage this race, he said. Some 2 miles from the finish, the Korean distance runner surged into the lead. At the moment of victory, Sohn was joyous. For 4 years, I trained for that goal. If I had lost, those 4 years would have been for nothing. That satisfaction is very difficult for someone who has never been in that situation to understand. My first time in an international event and winning it. Sohn's feeling of elation was short-lived. When I got up on the stand and the national anthem played and the flags went up, that's when I felt the sorrow of someone who doesn't have a country. If it was I, a Korean, who won the race, and yet it was Japan's national anthem and Japan's flag, he said. The young athlete was unprepared for the shock. He was ignorant of the world outside Korea. He readily admits that even the highly political overtones of the Berlin Olympics were lost to him. He was unaware of how even black American Jesse Owens' 4 gold medals spoiled what Adolf Hitler hoped would be a showcase of Nazi prowess. We didn't even know there was such a thing as a medal ceremony afterwards, Sohn says of himself and 6 other Korean members of the Japanese team. As the flags went up, he remembers second-place finisher Ernie Harper looking straight ahead at the British flag. But myself and the third-place winner, also a Korean, had our heads down. We were crying. It was not because of the victory. Those were genuine tears of sadness and frustration that it wasn't our victory. Sohn and his fellow Koreans tried to salvage this bittersweet win as an opportunity to express their opposition to Japanese rule. In Berlin, Sohn signed his name in Korean script and attempted to explain to mostly uncomprehending Western reporters about the occupied status of his country. Korea, a proud and ancient land, had been brought under Japanese colonial rule in 1910. The Japanese enforced a policy of suppressing even Korean culture, teaching only Japanese in the schools, and forcing Koreans to use Japanese names. The victories of Sohn and the bronze medalist Nam Song-young were celebrated back home not as Japanese, but as a Korean triumph. Korean nationalists were careful to point out their Korean origins. The prominent newspaper, Donghaeilbo, still Korea's leading daily, published a wire photo of Son from which it had deliberately removed the Japanese rising sun emblem on his uniform. The act of defiance became a major issue and staff members were arrested and the paper suspended from publication. Today, Sohn carries himself with a proud bearing of an athlete. He receives a modest government pension in honor of his achievement. He has served as a member of the Korean Olympic Committee. His gold medal is on public display. Still, he cannot forget. He has waged a one-man campaign, though with the support of his country, to have his name and country of origin officially changed in the Olympic records. For legal reasons, it is unlikely he will succeed. Yet the pride which Sohn feels for his country's hosting of the 1988 Summer Games clearly eases his pain. In Seoul, Sohn Kee-chung will be fully representing his nation as an Olympic champion.